Hi everyone, my name is Maddie, welcome back to my channel and welcome to this video where I'm going to be talking to you about all of the series I want to try and read in 2021. So before I get into the video, I just really quickly want to say apologies if I'm massively low energy in this video. I'm going to try and keep myself upbeat. It is currently midnight, the night before this video needs to go up. This is the time we have to film this week, so this is when we're filming. I am a little bit tired because I was up really late last night watching a TV show, but we're going to film anyway and I'm really excited to film this video. Also, do we like the slightly different setup today? It's mainly because I'm tired and I wanted to sit on my sofa with a big fluffy cushion, but like, we have a Christmas tree and I'm in green and I feel like I've unintentionally made this like a really nice filming setup and I'm definitely going to be making the most of this until we get to Christmas because I like this area for filming. It's not very bookish, but I like it. So if you've seen my 2021 reading goals video, which will be linked up there if you've not seen it, in that I did mention that one of my biggest goals for the year is to try and complete some series, or at the very least make some progress. It was one of my biggest failings, if you want to call it that, in 2020, is that I started a ton of series and finished none. I just didn't continue with any, not because I wasn't interested, I just didn't get around to it. I don't know why, it just didn't happen. So I'm putting a very specific focus in 2021 on reading series. It's something I've been wanting to get through. There's so many series, both backlist and recent, which everyone talks about and I really want to read. So this is the year to do it. And so I could very, very easily list like 30 series that I really, really want to read soon, because honestly, I do want to read them all. But obviously that is not realistic. So I have chosen 11 series that I really want to read, which is what I'm putting on this list. Even still, I make no guarantees that I'm going to read all of these in 2021. I think my plan is more to make a decent start or progress in pretty much all of them and at least finish maybe half or as many as I can realistically. But if I was to add up the books in all of these together, that would be pretty much everything I plan to read all year. So I will say I'm not planning necessarily to finish all 11 series, but at least I want to make progress in a lot of them, and they're series that I've had on my radar for a really long time, so they're definitely ones I really want to try and get to. I do also have a couple other series in the back of my mind which I may try and read throughout the year, but as I said, these are the priorities, so these are the ones we're going to talk about today. One thing to note as well with a lot of the series that are on this list is I am kind of, to an extent, trying to pick series which I do already own, either some or the majority of the books. There are a couple here which I do currently only own the first book, but I know I'm getting for Christmas, and I know that because I literally sent a list of books to buy to my mum for Christmas, and I know what was on them, and it's the completion of a lot of these series. So other than 3, I think, I do either own the full series or will do in the next week or so. So I am specifically trying to choose series where I do already own them, so I'm not like adding to my TBR hugely. I'm trying to get through some of the books I already own before buying tons of new series, because I do have an awful habit of buying a full series before even reading the first book. It is definitely one of my biggest weaknesses. I have no self-control. So let's maybe try and actually read some of those before buying even more in 2021. The one thing I will very quickly say before getting into this list is that not all of the series on this list are completed. I think most of them are. There's 1 or 2 where I think the final book might be coming out in 2021, and there is at least 1 where I know it's ongoing, but enough of the books are out that I want to catch up to where it's already up to, and then I'll just read the rest as they come out or wait and reread them later. So most of these are completed series, not all of them, but I'll explain as we go through. So before I end up rambling on for absolutely ages, I'm just going to get straight into talking about the first series. So the first series I'm going to talk about is the Bone Season series by Samantha Shannon. I have the first 3 books here. I'm just going to hold up the first one because they are quite heavy, being big hardbacks. So the Bone Season by Samantha Shannon is a series that started way back in like 2014, I want to say. 2013, even earlier, and I have actually just started this, but I haven't read it yet, and it sounds like my perfect series. It's a dystopian set mainly in London, at least in the first book, following people who have sort of clairvoyance and a society who wants to get rid of them, so they're working in like an underground syndicate sort of thing. It's really interesting. The first section of it's really interesting, and this isn't a completed series. The first 3 books are currently out, and book 4 is coming out in January of 2021. My aim originally was to have caught up on the first 3 books before that point so that I could read it as soon as it came out. I doubt that will happen, but my hope is still to maybe catch up by like February sometime, so I can still read it pretty soon after release. And that's, I think, The Mask Falling that's coming out in January, so I have that pre-ordered. I had that pre-ordered before I even started this series. I'm just assuming I'm going to love it. It seems, as I said, like my perfect thing. So this is probably the top of my priority list to get caught up on. It's one a lot of people talk about, and as I said, it definitely sounds like one that could be an absolute favourite for me. I loved The Pride of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon, which kind of shows I love her writing, and this is a massively popular series. And so far I'm really enjoying it, so I'm very optimistic to read these, and this will probably be both my top priority and the first series I get to. Moving on to the second series in this list, we may as well stay with the same theme of dystopian, and so for that I'm going to continue with The Fever King by Victoria Lee. I have read this book before. I did actually read it in 2019, I think, sort of summertime, July maybe, and I loved it so much. I absolutely adored this book and really wanted to read the sequel, but the sequel wasn't out at the time. The sequel has since released, but I haven't had a chance to get to it, and it has now got to the point where I don't feel like I remember the detail of this book well enough and the characters well enough, as it is actually a very character-driven story, to continue to the second book. So I am going to reread this one and then read the second book. But again, there is no question I will get to these. I've been wanting to for so long. And I love Victoria Lee as an author, and I'm very excited for their new book coming out towards the end of 2021, which is a completely separate thing, but nonetheless exciting. So The Fever King will absolutely be read, as will The Electric Air, which I'll put a picture up of there. I'm very excited. As I said, it's sort of a dystopian series, I think, where you get some sort of disease, most people die from it, but if you survive, you end up with some sort of superpower. This boy does survive and gets superpowers and kind of gets taken by the state to be trained, and there's very much a morally grey. You don't know who's good, you don't know who's evil, you don't know who to trust. The main character doesn't know who to trust. There's loads of LGBT characters. It's just phenomenal. I love it a lot. I cannot wait to reread this and then read the sequel. Sorry, we've had a very slight camera angle change because the angle it was at was requiring me to sit extremely upright, and with the energy levels I currently have, that was not going well. So we're doing this so I can slouch a little bit. But carrying on again with dystopians, a lot of dystopian I want to get to in 2021. The Red Rising Trilogy. I think this is dystopian. I've always thought of it as sci-fi, but I'm pretty sure it is a dystopian series, and I'm super excited for this. I have owned all three of these books since Iron Gold was released. I think is when I actually bought all three of these, because I was in my local Waterstones and Iron Gold was there with a really pretty edition with sprayed edges. I knew this was a series I wanted to read. And coincidentally, Pierce Brown had been in the store very recently before that and had signed a load of books. So I did get the whole trilogy signed from my local Waterstones, and it seemed like too good an opportunity to miss up, and so I bought them. But that was probably about 2 to 3 years ago now, if not longer, and I still haven't even read one of them. So I really want to try and read these in 2021. As I said, I'm pretty sure this is a sort of dystopian series, kind of sci-fi-y. As far as I know, this follows a world where people are in different like classes. You have reds and blues and golds, and I think kind of depending on what class you're put in, there's not really chance of movement, and it's actually set on Mars, and I think it follows this character who is of one of the lower classes and then discovers that these higher classes even exist and kind of mounts a bit of a rebellion, which sounds very typical dystopian, and I am excited for it. I know a lot of people love this series. I know especially Shanice Noel absolutely loves this series, and some other booktubers, though it's not in my head right now as to who. So I'm really excited to get to this, and I feel like it's going to challenge me because adult sci-fi isn't necessarily the sort of thing I would read. Although I love dystopia, sci-fi always kind of makes me scared. I don't know why, especially adult sci-fi. So this is going to be a really nice way of kind of reading something that I love, because dystopian, but also stretching myself a little bit, and everyone loves this, so I have to believe I'm going to too. So then continuing with more sci-fi, though quite different sci-fi, I do have the Wayfarers series by Becky Chambers. Again, a fourth book in this series is coming out in 2021, and so now feels like the perfect time to try and catch up on the first few books. Again, I'm being lazy and just holding up book one, but I don't know too much about this. I know it's kind of an LGBT sci-fi following this group of all sorts of different races of aliens who are in sort of like mixed species, mixed race relationships. I don't know exactly, but everyone I mention this series to either loves it or says I will love it, if not both. I know Katie from Brightness Katie Reads loves this. I know Justine loves it. I'm pretty sure Amber and Nikki love it. Everyone loves this series, and I see no reason I won't as well. Apparently it is wholesome. It is amazing. It sounds exactly like the sort of thing I'll love. Again, adult sci-fi. How I'm getting on so much adult sci-fi at the moment, I really don't understand, but I'm kind of here for. And I'm really, really excited. Again, I will not be caught up on this series by the time the fourth book comes out, but hopefully I can catch up and at least be kind of reading it maybe around the time that people are really hyped about it again, just to kind of feel like I'm in with the buzz and at least slightly understanding what everyone is talking about. Because I will say with almost all of these series, I do just feel so out of the loop because everyone's read them, everyone knows about them and talks about them all the time. And I'm just there like, I have no idea who you're talking about. Like, other than this series, I can probably name the main characters of almost every single one of these series, and I've not even read them. I hear so much about them, this one especially, so I am very, very intrigued. I did almost read this in 2020. One point when I didn't know what I wanted to read, I picked this up for a try chapter challenge, and I loved the first chapter. It just something else piqued my interest at the time. So I'm very excited to get to this. Don't know when it will be in the year, but I want to read it. And I have 3 books already, and I guarantee I will have no self-restraint by the 4th one. Though I do have paperbacks of the first 3, so I may wait for the paperback to come out of the 4th one as well, so I can have kind of almost matching sets. I have the arc of the 3rd one because I got it in a charity shop. So yeah, very much another series I want to read next year. The next series I'm going to talk about is one which I genuinely believe is so severely underhyped. I have read the first book in this series, I will be rereading to continue, and that is the Skybound Saga by Alex London. The first book is Black Wings Beating, the second is Red Skies Falling, and the third is Gold Wings Rising. As I said, I read this book, I don't even know when, maybe 2018, maybe 2019, I'm genuinely not sure. Actually no, it was definitely 2018, and I loved it. It was one of my favourite books of the year, and even back then I was saying it was underrated, but I kind of assumed that it would pick up momentum as the series went on, and it hasn't as much as it should have. This was such a good starting book. It's got male-male romance, Own Voices male-male romance in it. It is phenomenal. It is all about sort of having an affinity to birds, which sounds really odd, but it's really fascinating, and it's this brother and sister. The brother gets into debt and ends up having to pay off this debt by basically going to hunt and claim this very, very rare bird. And it's just so interesting. It has like familial loyalty and romance and angst and tension. It's so good, and I cannot wait to just read through all 3 books really quickly. I meant to do it again in 2020 and didn't get around to it, just like every other series there is. So I'm unbelievably excited to read this one, and I cannot wait to hype it endlessly on my channel and get more people reading it, because as I said, so many more people need to read this series. I don't think I mentioned, but in case it's not obvious from the synopsis I gave, this is a YA fantasy. Whilst we're talking about Own Voices male-male fantasy, it seems like a good time to mention Wolfsong by TJ Klune. This is the first book in the Green Creek series, I think is what the series is called. I am so excited to read this. For anyone who hasn't seen my videos before, because if you have, you'll probably know this, I discovered TJ Klune this year. I read The House in the Cerulean Sea and I read The Extraordinaries by him, and adored both 5-star reads for me, 2 of my favourites of the year. And so I picked up Wolfsong, which is the start of a werewolf new adult romance he has, which apparently much darker than his other 2 books I've read. And I meant to read it straight away, I got distracted, but I'm absolutely going to be reading it in 2021. There are 4 books in this series: Wolfsong, Ravensong, Heartsong, and Brother Song. I will hopefully get through all of them in 2021, but they are actually quite chunky. This is over 400 pages, almost 500 pages, and there's a lot of text on each page. They are self-pubbed, I think. I'm beyond excited. Hopefully I get through them. If not, at the very least, I want to make a solid start, because everyone that has read this series, it almost has like a cult following. People love it so much, and so I just feel like I'm missing out, and I want to know what I'm missing out on. And as I've already said, I love TJ Klune, so I'm pretty certain I'm going to love this, and I could always have more TJ Klune in my life. And he has so many more books which I don't even own yet, so I really want to try and get through this one so that I can then get on to all of his other books, because there are just so many and they all sound amazing. In terms of a synopsis for this, I don't really know one. All I know is it's gay werewolves, and honestly that's enough for me. I think it follows maybe like a 16-year-old boy. I can't remember, but it sounds good nonetheless, and everyone says they both cry and like it's also hot. So I want to know, honestly, at this point. I'm just intrigued, and it's gay werewolves. I'm gonna like it. Like, there's not really a question there, is there? Next up is another adult fantasy series, and that is the Winter Night Trilogy by Catherine Arden. I am very excited for this. I am meant to be reading The Bear and the Nightingale in December. Whether that will happen remains to be seen. I'm very busy, so we'll see. I still have so many books on my TBR for this month and very little time left, so I'm not overly optimistic, but I'll do my best. And this, again, I don't know too much about. I think it's set in Russia. It follows sort of religion and magic, which I'm very intrigued by how those are going to kind of come together. Everyone says this is amazing. A lot of people who know my reading taste and know I like lyrical writing and things like that say that this will absolutely be up my street, and I trust all those people. So I do think there is a very good chance it's going to be a new favourite series for me. The first book is Bear and the Nightingale, the second is The Girl in the Tower, and I think the third is The Winter and the Witch. I'm not completely sure. I do own books 1 and 2 for this. Actually, I own books 1 and 3. I need to buy the middle one. I'll do that at some point because I do want to get the American paperbacks for all of them. And yeah, I'm very excited. I'm really excited by the fact that this isn't that long. Like, this is only just over 300 pages, which for a fantasy book is really short, and I'm kind of here for it. And yeah, this is like a really cold, wintry setting and lyrical writing and magic. it sounds like something I'm going to love. So the next trilogy I'm going to talk about is another extremely well-loved trilogy on the book internet, and that is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I am so unbelievably excited to get to this. We're going to take a 2-minute interlude before I talk about the series though, to talk about how stunning these editions are. This is the Fairy Loot edition. ILLUMICRATE. It's the ILLUMICRATE edition. I don't know why I said Fairy Loot, but we're going to carry on. Yet again, I did buy the whole trilogy before reading the first one, because I don't love the UK paperbacks, and these have foiling on the covers and the most gorgeous sprayed edges in the world. I'll just show you the third one as well. Again, foiling, sprayed edges. These are stunning, and I couldn't resist when ILLUMICRATE announced they were doing them, because I knew it was going to be a series I wanted to read and I wanted to have matching editions of, and this seemed like the best way to get them. So I did buy them before reading them yet again. But this is a series I am so highly anticipating. Again, holding up the first one, they're so chunky and heavy, these. It sounds so interesting. I will admit, I do not even know where to begin with the synopsis for this. All I have heard everyone say is that they're super, super dark, look up trigger warnings and learn the historical context. At this point, I will openly admit I have no clue what period of history these even refer to, what historical context these need, but luckily there is a blogger, TIffany, at Read by TIffany, who has written a whole document blog post thing detailing all the historical context and like parallels you need to know to understand this series as fully as you can, or at least it can be a really good starting point, so I will link that blog post down below. I am absolutely going to be reading that in great detail before reading the series, because a lot of people have said the historical context obviously adds a whole lot to this series, and I would love to learn about a new period in history, especially as it will be so influential as to, like, not in the enjoyment of this series, but sort of understanding the context and significance of the events in this series instead of just reading it for a fun fantasy. So I'm definitely going to be reading that first and doing my own research before reading this. And it's definitely going to kind of be a bit of a project, and I'm also very, very nervous to be absolutely destroyed by these books. If anyone else's reaction is anything to go off, everyone seems dead by the end of it. So I'm nervous to say the least, but also very, very excited, because everyone I know loves this series, as with all of these, honestly, and so I really do think, yet again, good chance of this being another favourite series for me. And then the next series I'm going to talk about is the 5th season, or the Broken Earth Trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. Again, a very well-loved fantasy sci-fi dystopian series. Not exactly sure. Pretty sure it is actually a dystopian, but it's also kind of post-apocalyptic. It's something like that. And this book series, the trilogy, each book individually won the Hugo Award every year, which is a huge deal and not something that had ever happened before. So this is going to be a good series. There's not really any doubt in that fact, and I'm so excited for it. Also, super floppy paperback, just to add, make it even better. All I know is that this is a book where the world ends repeatedly, and I think people are very used to kind of building their civilization back. I know it's partially in second person. I've mentioned before that I'm very intimidated by this book. I do actually have a whole video of books I'm intimidated by, and this is definitely on it. And it does make me nervous, but I'm really, really optimistic for it. I do think it will be exactly my cup of tea. I kind of like a bit of a weird writing style. We love dystopian. It's very well acclaimed. I'm sure I will love it. So very excited to get to this one. Again, I don't know if I'll read all 3 of these in 2021. It is again a very chunky series, with the first book being 450 pages. I think the other 2 are similar lengths. And I do have a lot on my 2021 TBR because I have no self-control and I have no chill. So no promises for completing this one, but I definitely want to make a good dent into it because I've had it on my TBR for way too long without even picking it up. And then next up is a series which I hadn't even heard about before this year, and yet cannot wait to get to. And this is the only series which I know is still going that I don't know when the next book is out, and that is Jade City by Fonda Lee. I'm so excited by this. This is like gangs and magic, and people being able to like wield jade as a magic source, and I think like only certain people can do it, and then a different group of people can maybe do it. I'm not completely sure. Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right from the blurb, and everyone loves this. This was very kindly gifted to me by Katie from Brightness Katie Reads, who I love and I've mentioned multiple times already in this video. She gifted me this. I'm so excited. The sequel Jade War is already out, and then I think there was a 3rd book which might be coming out in 2021. If anyone knows, please let me know. I've tried to look it up and failed to find the answer. But nonetheless, I at least want to read the first 2 books as they're available, and it's being adapted and everyone keeps talking. I can't remember his name even, about the main male character. It begins with H and I can't remember his name. Okay, so I just looked it up, and the character from talks about is Hilo, not sure how to say it. We'll be looking up pronunciations when I read this. But everyone talks about him and I don't know who he is, but I want to know. I see a lot of thirst and him being a villain, and we're here for that. so I want to read it. Again, it's another booktube series sort of favourite. Everyone talks about it on booktube, everyone talks about it on book Twitter. The interest is getting to me. I need to know what it's about, so I'm going to try and read it next year. And then the final series I'm going to talk about is not one I currently have with me. I stupidly haven't got a copy with me at the moment. And that is the Mistborn Trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. I have read the first book. I read the first book in July, I think. I did not realize it was that long ago, but apparently it was, and I need to finish reading it. I did say I was going to read the whole trilogy in 2020. I didn't. I read the first book. I didn't read any more. I didn't love the first book. It was good. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it as much as I was hoping I would, and it also wrapped up more than I expected. But a lot of people have said carry on. The second book kind of sets up a whole new storyline and then ends on a crazy cliffhanger that leads into book 3 really well. So I'm definitely going to be giving it a go, even though I'm very intimidated by its size and by the fact I wasn't obsessed with the first book. But we want to try some Brandon Sanderson. I want to give it a proper go. So I'm definitely going to be trying it. I'm very excited to be back with the same characters from the first book because I did really enjoy them. I will do it in 2021. It's 2 books. I can read 2 books. I think that's almost the one I want to do most other than the Bone season, because I just know how much it will annoy me if I get even further behind. And I'm also determined one day to fully catch up on Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere. For example, I really want to read the Stormlight Archive. No way is that happening in 2021. 2021 is the year for like finishing series, not starting huge epic series, which I have no chance of getting anywhere through. So that's a project for another year, but I at least want to start catching up on the Cosmere so that I can understand some of the discussions happening, and also so I'm not so intimidated by it by the time I do want to get to the Stormlight Archive. So Mistborn is definitely on my list to read in 2021. But for anyone who doesn't know, a very quick overview of Mistborn. It follows a world where the bad guy has already won and is then ruling, and it's this weird place where you have this sort of magic where if you ingest different metals you get different powers, and different people can use this in different ways, but there are certain groups of people called Mistborn who can do this with multiple different metals. If I remember correctly, I should know more having read it, but I can't remember. But it basically leads into a rebellion, and it was good, it was interesting. I'm definitely gonna have to look up like a plot summary of the first book before carrying on, because I don't fully remember it. I don't know why all the detail just didn't stick in my brain. It was too much to go into my small brain. But yeah, that is another series I really want to get to in 2021. Please hold me to it. I'm going to need the motivation and encouragement from you guys to actually pick that one up because it scares me. But that is it for the video. I am not even making an attempt to pick up all these books. There's a lot of very chunky fantasy right next to me. And as I said, if I added up every single book in all of these series, I think it comes to like 35 books or more, which is more than half of the books I'm planning to read in 2021 if I only get to my goal of 52. So I do not think I will get to every single one of these, but I do have a reading journal, which you will actually see the video after this one. And in that, I have sort of got a tracking system set up for these series. And so I guess my biggest goal for the end of the year is just to have made progress. Even if I have 1 or 2 of these series I've not touched, if I have a few I've completed and a few I've made progress on, I will be very happy with that. It's just a case of really getting myself back in the habit of continuing on with series, because I don't know why in 2020 I was so dead set on starting a ton of series and then not continuing them. Honestly, I think it was more than anything because a ton of first books in series came out and I read them as they came out, and obviously the second books weren't out yet. So I just really got out the habit of continuing with series, and I miss it. I love a big, long, epic story that spans 3 or 4 books. So I do want to get back into it. But yeah, that's it for the video. Those are the series I'm going to read. I have some lofty goals, but at least even if I don't make them, it means that I will have achieved quite a lot, even if I only get halfway through them. That is it for the video. So if you enjoyed it, please give a thumbs up. Comment down below either any of these series you think I should prioritize, if you read them, if you loved them, any you think maybe I shouldn't read, if you do have some unpopular opinions. Are there any series you really, really want to get to in 2021? I would love to know. Everyone is always saying I'm going to catch up with series, and none of us ever do. So I would love to know either what series you're definitely going to try and read in 2021, or what series you've been saying you're going to read for the longest and still haven't. Subscribe if you'd like to see more content from me. All the links to my other social media and the book clubs and read-alongs that I host, I'll link down in the description below as always if you want to connect in any other way. But that is it for this video, so bye, and I'll see you in the next one.